Previously, on the world of Wanana, Ruku and Salal entered the land of orcs in search for the next legendary hero from Ruku's vision. They came across a red orc with a powerful axe who defended his village from chimera attacks. As it turns out, this red orc named Groz was the legendary hero they were looking for. Groz was his village's protector. He fought off countless chimeras that have been breaking through the magic barrier surrounding the land of monsters. If the prophecy is true about the legendary heroes being the only ones to keep the magic barrier up, then they would need to convince Groz to join them. However, Groz wasn't easily convinced. It wasn't until the Wakali Garu tried attacking the village that Groz then realized that he couldn't take on the chimera all by himself. Groz alongside Ruku and Salal were able to take out the powerful chimera. During their fight, Ruku began having memories of Groz. Groz too began feeling a sense of familiarity from Ruku. When Salal asked where to go next, Ruku had another vision, only this time it was more powerful than the last. This time, his vision of a pink tiefling girl came with a name, Nemeia. Let's find out if our heroes can find and convince Nemeia to join their quest on today's episode. Groz, Ruku, and Salal had never visited the land of man before. It was a land of ordinary people who did not possess magical abilities. Instead, the land of man was a place for warriors, hunters, artists, chefs, and masons. When they entered through the town gates of Celesta, their eyes laid witness to some of the most incredible architecture they had ever seen. The vibrant colors popping off the buildings, the sounds of the most energetic music from bards singing tunes about adventurers, and most alluring of all was the aroma of food that filled the air. Alright guys, first things first, we must look. Where's Groz? He's right next to me. Groz? Ruku and Salal both turned to face the crowd. They were easily able to spot him talking to an older woman. When he finished, he returned to Ruku and Salal. What was that all about, Groz? I didn't feel like wasting time, so I asked someone if they knew where we could find Nemeia. Did that actually work, my friend? Yes. The lady said that Nemeia is working at her tavern, called the Alchemist. Simple and effective. I can learn a lot from you, Groz. The three heroes proceeded to the Alchemist tavern in the middle of town. As they were getting closer to the tavern, they could see the smiling faces of the townsfolk. They were all giddy, smiling from ear to ear. Ruku noticed that everything was stemming from the tavern. As the heroes walked through the stone front opening, they noticed the interior of the establishment. The walls were a pale red color with several frames adorning the walls. There were 2 long tables with stone booths on either side. Past that were 4 round tables, a bar with several bar stools, and way in the back was an open kitchen. Leaving the kitchen to serve food to one of the round tables was a pink tiefling girl in an orange apron. She carried a plate of some colorful and glossy textured food in a metal bowl sitting on top of a plate with green designs around the rim. When she placed the food on the table, Ruku could swear he saw it shine and sparkle. The grumpy-looking gentleman at the round table took his first bite, and he looked like all the stress he was carrying melted away. He began laughing with his friends at the table and even began singing a song. Was this some sort of magic? Ruku thought to himself. The 3 heroes found a seat and ordered some food. After 10 minutes, Nemeia brought over 3 plates of food over to the heroes. Groz was the first to take a bite. He began smiling and continued to eat his meal. Salal was the next to try the food. He too had the same reaction as Groz. He smiled and even began chirping a song. Ruku grabbed his fork and took a bite. When the food touched his tongue, he was instantly thrown into a memory. He could see Groz, Salal, and Nemeia sitting around a campfire. Around them were the swirling colored visions floating and shifting. These were the other heroes. The vision of Nemeia began speaking to Ruku. It said, "With this meal, we are guaranteed to succeed with tomorrow's mission of putting up the barrier." Ruku was about to speak when he suddenly thrusted back to reality. Hours had passed and the tavern had been closed for some time when Ruku regained consciousness. "Are you alright, lad? I had never seen someone take to my cooking quite like that." "Nemeia? I can't believe it, it's really you." "Did you hit your head, elf? I don't know you." "Nemeia, I've known you for years. You have the best culinary magic I've ever seen. You're a big part of the reason why we were successful with raising the barrier around the land of monsters and trapping Terrax." "I seriously have no idea what you're talking about." Part of Ruku felt the same way. Sometimes he feels like he knows nothing of the world he lives in, and then other times, like in this moment, he has full-on memories of living 1,000 years in the past. "I'm sorry, dear. What my friend is trying to ask, if you have a moment, we would like to speak with you about an old legend and prophecy that we believe you may be a part of. Do you have time to listen to the tale? I don't think so. I'd like to kindly ask you gentlemen to be on your way. Nemeia, look into my eyes and tell me you don't sense that what I'm saying is the truth. Nemeia began walking to the kitchen. She waved her hands over 3 empty plates and cast a spell. 3 meals magically appeared. The aroma began to fill the air, and Nemeia began lowering her guard a little. How did you know about my magic? I've been careful for years about keeping it a secret from everyone in this town. I just know. It's hard to explain. I get these visions, more like memories of the past. But it's crazy because they are from 1,000 years ago, I think. I know it doesn't make sense, but we are part of a group of legendary heroes. Our destiny is to make sure that the great evil trapped behind the barriers surrounding the land of monsters doesn't escape, or it will spell disaster for this world. The world needs us, Nemeia. Suddenly the tavern began growing darker and colder. Nemeia looked frightened as she saw a shadowy figure enter through the front door of her tavern. Smoky tendrils began growing from the shadow figure, and the tables and chairs were all tossed at the walls like paper. The shadowy figure began taking a more solid form as it began making its way towards Nemeia. Ruku instinctively jumped over the bar and ran towards the kitchen to protect Nemeia. Groz and Salal, at the same moment, got up and put themselves between the shadowy figure and Nemeia. Salal reached into his pocket dimension and grabbed a slick-looking blue pistol. So, what do you call this blaster? Oh, this is my eagle-izer. Don't you mean equalizer? I said what I meant. The shadowy figure raised 2 shadow creatures from within its own shadow. The 2 shadow creatures had very sharp serrated teeth, 4 legs, no visible eyes or nose, and shadow tendrils coming out of their bodies. I hope it has enough power for these guys. You should never doubt Salal, my friend. Let me show you why. Salal fired a shot from his eagle-izer. A blue bullet shot out and turned into a flaming blue eagle. The shot chased down one of the shadow creatures until it pierced the creature. The shadow creature disintegrated under the intense light. Eagle-izer, you say? I do. Their brief moment of victory was quickly put to an end when the shadow creature rose again. The shadowy figure's eyes were glowing with rage. He's a mage, be careful! The shadowy figure said something that was difficult to understand, all except for 3 words. Land of monsters. When the figure finished speaking, the shadow creature began to attack Groz and Salal. Groz was fending off one of them with his mighty axe, while Salal continued firing off his eagle-izer. Although the shadow creatures were easily able to be defeated, the heroes were being overwhelmed by the number of creatures being summoned by the Shadow Mage. Ruku was looking on at the advancing Shadow Mage. He had about 10 shadow creatures dealing with Groz and Salal. The only thought on Ruku's mind was, how am I going to keep Nemeia safe? Nemeia looked over at Ruku and a sense of familiarity began overtaking her. She started thinking about what Ruku said about her being a legendary hero and about the barrier surrounding the land of monsters. As the thoughts began rushing through her mind, Nemeia had an idea. Ruku, I need you to buy me some time. I have an idea. What do you mean? Ruku noticed Nemeia tying up her apron around her waist. She had a very serious look in her eyes. I'll buy you as much time as you need, Nemeia. Ruku pulled out his magic tome, which had spells available for a level 20 mage. He used his Ember Breath spell to blow fire at the Shadow Mage. The mage was unaffected by this. It just absorbed the flame into its body. Oh, come on! While Ruku was struggling to land a critical blow on the Shadow Mage, Groz was being bitten by 3 shadow creatures while 2 other shadow creatures were trying to snatch his giant axe. Salal was firing his eagle-izer bullets at the shadow creatures, but they would keep coming back out of the shadows and clawing and biting at his limbs. Nemeia was hard at work in the kitchen. She was pouring several dry and wet ingredients into a boiling pot. She kept focused and removed all distractions occurring in front of her. Ruku was looking for his blazing orange spell, but just like last time, the other high-level spells disappeared out of his magic tome. So instead, he casted his flash fire spell. Ruku faced the palms of his hands towards the Shadow Mage, and a white ball of light began filling the room. The Shadow Mage seemed to grow angry. It attempted to fill the cavern with smoke and shadow. The piercing light was becoming too much for the shadow creatures, and they began to sizzle in the light until they puffed into smoke. The shadow creature thrusted one of its shadow tendrils up through the tavern roof. From where Ruku was standing, he could see how dark it was outside. The only light showing tonight was the stars in the sky, and of course, his flash fire. The Shadow Mage began drawing in the darkness, and its form began to grow. The flash fire spell was beginning to wane. The shadow mage lifted its hands up and hit the ground, causing a wave of darkness to knock back Groz, Ruku, and Salal. Ruku was blown into the kitchen right when Nemeia finished her concoction. "Ruku, it's finished. I need you to eat this." In Nemeia's hands was a bubbling fudge dessert with whipped cream. The aroma coming off the dish was not chocolatey, like one would expect. Instead, it smelled earthy like the smell of a dirt road after it rained. Ruku looked away from the dish and up at Nemeia. The memory of her saying, "With this meal, we are guaranteed to succeed," rang through his mind again. Without hesitation, Ruku took a bite of the bubbling fudge dessert. For a moment, his mouth was on fire. Then the heat began to feel good as it spread across his body. Ruku got up with a resurgence of power flowing through him. His magic tome shot up from the ground and began floating above Ruku's hand with a brand new high-level spell. Ruku casted his new spell, Brilliant Blue! A bright blue flame began to engulf his hand. The Shadow Mage took a step back, feeling the eminent heat and brightness emit from Ruku's hand. Ruku shouted out to Groz and Salal, "Take cover!" Groz and Salal both headed for the least damaged long tables and ducked behind it. Ruku threw the flame that was in his hands at the Shadow Mage. The blue flame stuck to it instead of being absorbed by the shadows, and then it exploded. The eastmost wall collapsed in the explosion and the Shadow Mage turned into a pillar of black smoke. Smoke then began to reform back into the Shadow Mage. It glanced over at Ruku and his face began to glow bright shades of red and purple. Then, it vanished into darkness. After a few minutes, the group let out a big sigh of relief, realizing that the Shadow Mage had fled. "Thanks, Nemeia. If it wasn't for you, I don't think we could have defeated the Shadow Mage." "It wasn't me, lad. It was all you. The dish I made taps into the eater's potential. That spell, that power, that magic, it was all you. I hope we never see that thing again. I want to fight it and beat it until I can't get back up again." "You have some interesting friends. That also includes you, Nemeia. Will you join us in protecting Wanana from the land of monsters?" "Aye. I'll join you, Ruku. Where might you be traveling to next?" Before Ruku could grab the golden compass, a voice came from a puddle of water on the ground. "Ruku, are you there? It's me, Orm. I need you to return to Brewhaven. I think I may have found out about the Keepers and about the missing parts of the prophecy." Well guys, this one was a fun one. I really like the first drawing as a comic page because I think it does a great job of showing you some of the key moments that took place in the story. Plus it gave me an excuse to draw panels and draw multiple characters. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, and if you did, please leave this video a like and comment down below what your favorite part of this episode was. I'm officially 5 episodes into this world building series, and we are very close to the halfway point. I can't wait to see you in the next episode in a couple weeks, which will be episode 1 of a 2-part community redraw special. As always, I'm drawing with Mr. S, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Y'all take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Bye-bye.